but it is now time to welcome to the show our guest in the local game segment. And he's somewhat of a return visitor, someone we always love having on the show. We've had him on the show on several occasions over the past few years, both in his role as the senior head coach of the Barwon women's team, but he's also been heavily involved in the Masters Summer League, which will be back again, I'm sure, in the coming off-season. But a big welcome to a man that we really enjoy having on the show, Simon Blanch. Simon, how are you?
I'm very well, Tonji. How are you?
Very good, mate. Very good. Thank you for joining us on the Game of Two Halves, powered by the Geelong Region Soccer Show. First of all, mate, over the weekend we saw round one of the new split competition, if you like, the Division 1 and the Division 2. And if we put the ladder up very quickly, we'll go through the results as well. First of all, it was Deakin Ducks handed Armstrong United a big 5-0 loss. Drysdale Soccer Club hosted Surf Coast, and Surf Coast defeated Drysdale 3-1. Bell Park travelled to Shelton Road Reserve in Ocean Grove and came away with a 3-1 win. And Barwon hosted Lara United. This was on Saturday afternoon, and came away with all 3 points, courtesy of a 4-1 win over Lara United. Tell us a little bit about that game. First of all, how did you find Lara United and the level of competition, and then we'll talk about the actual splitting of the division itself.
Well, just to tie in with that, it's the first time we've played Lara this season. We didn't get a chance to play them before the division split, and it's the first time I've actually coached against a women's team at Lara. They've only had a Division 2 team in the past, so it was an unknown for me going into this game. But the way that the girls have been playing, the way that the girls have been sort of going about their job, I was confident. I'm confident every week. It's something that the girls seem to be firing on all cylinders at the moment. So it was a game that we took the lead with a poor touch. The goalkeeper smacked the ball out. One of our players went to control it, and it flew back into the keeper's net. So I joke with that individual about that poor touch, but luckily they've got thick skin. But yeah, it was a good result. We stuck to our guns of how we play, how we set up. The girl that's been scoring a lot of goals for us didn't register on the weekend, but we had other people pop up with goals. So it was good to see people getting in to the right areas, getting the right results.
Hamilton 2 goals, Sharkey 1 and Cook 1, and for Lara United, Dugan scored the only goal for Lara United. Yeah, isn't that interesting? I mean, obviously because there was 15 teams, the division was untenable. Was really it's just, I don't know what the best word to describe it is. Some people have said it was a good thing. Some people have said it was quite farcical. But look, the end result was at the halfway mark of the season, it was always going to be split into a top 8 and I guess a bottom 7. But it's interesting that not everyone played each other once and weren't able to do so. Otherwise, it would have been a 14-round sort of a half season, if you like. But those teams, if we take a look at the ladder, those teams that do make up the top 8, Deakin Ducks, Black, Barwon, Bell Park, Surf Coast, Surfside Waves, Drysdale, Lara United and Armstrong United. In your opinion, Simon, do you think that's a fair indication of those are the 8 best clubs in Geelong at the moment in the women's competition?
I still haven't played 2 of them yet this season, so I'll save judgment on that just yet.
And who might that be?
We haven't played against Drysdale yet, and we haven't played at Surfside as yet.
Yeah.
But it's something that it's one of those where there's some good coaches, there's some good players, there's players that have played a much higher level now having a kick in this league. And if I sort of segment onto the split of the actual division, it's about time, because I think at the start of the year there was only 4 teams put their hand up to play Division 1. 4 teams out of, there's actually 16. So 4 teams out of 16 only want to play Division 1. It is not great. There was only 6 teams in the top division last year. But the year that we've got the world sort of game coming to Australia for the Women's World Cup, we should be championing women's football, really, especially in Australia, but in this region as a whole. And to have new players wanting to come and play the game, new players or older players that have wanted to come back to play the game, to not get an opportunity or not want to have an opportunity because the FFE didn't split that league. And the players that actually put their hand up to play for the first time this year have had hand-ins like 14-0, 11-0, 10-0. That type of thing week in, week out just isn't fair. It's disheartening for those individuals that have actually come to give it a try, to the point where we had a mother that had her daughter playing with Barwon's juniors. I think it was the under-15s that her daughter plays in. She couldn't train with her own side. So she asked me if it was all right to come and train with us. Barwon's a great club for this. Yes, come on, you're quite welcome. The more the merrier. It's absolutely fantastic, and it's how it welcomes players and how it welcomes people just to enjoy the game. So we've had a number of players that aren't even playing this year, just training with us to get a level of fitness, to see what it's like to have a kick. I just want to encourage people to be able to get out there, strap the boots on and have a kick. It doesn't matter if it's competitive on a weekend or if it's just to train and have a social sort of kick and see where they're at what level they think they're at or what fitness they haven't got. But it's something that I think the FFE got wrong. And I think this year with the men's league, if you finished in the top four, sorry, but you're going up. And we've seen a sort of really good split of 3 decent leagues now in the men's league. Why couldn't they have done that for the women's league? Right, you finished at the top, or you made the grand final, or whatever it is, you're moving up to make it an even split. So,
Simon, that's a good point, and it is a controversial point. Some will say it was Football Victoria's fault. Some will say it was some of the club's fault. Some of the players will actually say it was some of the players that are just wanting it to go too easy. And I guess we could sit here till midnight and look at it from all different angles and all of that kind of stuff. But going forward, I mean, 15 teams, 15 clubs at the moment, and dare I say, and this is a topic of conversation that we thought was solved maybe 2-3 years ago when the same thing happened, but it obviously hasn't. So going forward, let's assume that next year there's going to be even more teams. Let's assume that with the Women's World Cup, there's going to be a lot of girls, women, ladies wanting to play football. And from 15 teams, we may well have close to 20 teams with the juniors coming up through the ranks and what you're not in this. Okay. What do we do in 2024 as far as the local women's competition? So, A, we don't lose players. We generate quality football and quality competition to make it interesting for both the top and the bottom. What do we need to do? And you're quite an experienced coach in this field.
I think one of the easiest things would be start at the junior levels. There is under 15s. There's no under 16s. There's no under 17s. There's sort of no under it. There's no. If you turn 15, you can't travel because there's an under 15s that go to do the Metro League. If you can't get to play that Metro League, your only option is to play senior football. That's pretty poor. I've got girls that are really quite young, quite small, haven't finished developing to their sort of full height, and they're playing against senior girls that have played a lot of football. So if we get the junior set up right, that gives them a sort of stepping stone into the senior girls. And I think if you keep those junior girls from not disappearing and having that gap, you'll have more players, you'll have more teams at the local sides that you get. We might be able to put 2 teams in, a Division 1 and a Division 2. Have one as we want to go and win the league, like we always do. But the second is a development squad and actually have them as, right, we know that this is a bit more because it's a step up in the sort of level. But at the same time, don't be disheartened. Let's stick to this, get more game time, have an opportunity. Instead of, I think at the moment, these girls aren't getting the game time, or they are getting game time at certain clubs and they're getting walloped. So let's have that junior setup sorted, and I think the GRFC are going to have to sort of step up and try and assist the FFV there. Now there's no FFV representative in the region. So I think the more we can do, because there should be a lot of sort of junior girls wanting to play football after that World Cup. And I can imagine that the Matildas is going to do pretty well and go far in that cup.
Yeah.
So why not have that? And it's going to be parents wanting to play. It's going to be the parent and the daughter wanting to come and play football together, potentially in the same team.
So, and that's something that women's football offers that probably the men's version doesn't, is that because of the physicality or maybe the lack of a relative physicality, in the women's game, you can get a lot more mothers and daughters playing together as opposed to what happens in the men's game. But look, I want to return to something that you said about the fact that now we don't have a Football Victoria representative. And in the past, Foddy Kiprian has done a lot for the women's game. He's set up women's advisory committees. And we know the Geelong Region Football Committee is nothing more than an advisory body. It doesn't run the competitions in Geelong. We know that Football Victoria has its own competitions department. But the fact that, Foddy Kiprian, who keeps his post his Football Victoria employment, he's still involved with women's football up at Geelong Rangers. But how much of a blow for the local soccer community, the local football community, is the fact that Foddy is no longer employed with Football Victoria, and we don't really per se have a proper Football Victoria representative on the ground here?
I think anyone that's played indoor, anyone that's played football has seen or met Foddy. He's always around. He's always about. He's one of those characters that it's someone that you can have a conversation with, someone that you can have a bit of a sort of, right, I've got a question for you, Foddy. What about this? What about that? And I don't think the FFV have done enough for the Geelong region for a long time. And I don't think Foddy by himself was enough to start with. So I think losing Foddy, and I know that you were in the role going back a few years ago.
5-6 years ago now.
Yeah. And I think when the two of you are there, then you had a bit of a say for the Geelong region. We've lost that voice. FFV think of us as a distant relative. It's not really important, Geelong. It's not their be-all, end-all. They're making money out of the region. We're paying our subscriptions. We're paying our registrations, all the rest of it. But there doesn't seem to be anyone that's interested, now Foddy's gone, to say, right, we want to do this for the Geelong region. We want to do this for the western suburbs, or we want to do this. I can't hear any of it.
Yeah.
There is nothing.
Yeah. Could when we look at the women's side of things, is that one of the reasons more and more clubs have started looking towards the state leagues, i.e. North Geelong, i.e. Geelong Rangers? There has been talk in the past that maybe even Surf Coast down the track could be looking at that option as well. Does women's football, at least at a senior level, run the risk of really, I won't say collapsing because there's too many teams locally, but does it run the risk of really suffering because clubs are just going to turn around and say, well, look, Football Victoria have neglected the local region and the local competition. We might as well just pack up and move our operations to the Melbourne competitions. Could you see that happening, or am I a bit?
I'm gonna say the club that I'm involved in, the volunteers that run the club are fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
The volunteers that run every team in Geelong are what make this league. It's not the FFV. It's the people that put the time and effort in behind the scenes to get teams out on the pitch, to provide quality shirts looking like this with great support from the local businesses. It's something that I think that if the GRFC said, right, we'll run it for you, we'll take it off your hands, they do a much better job because they care about it more. But at the same time, I hear that the FFV are short-staffed to start with. It gets to the point sometimes. This year I've got a team manager, but in the past, I've spoke more to the guy in competitions about fixturing and refixturing and moving this and moving that than I have to my own partner. It's been one of them where it's just been constant. So I know that they're busy and I know that they've got a lot to deal with, but at the same time, why can't it be as important for these girls to be able to have a cake and enjoy than any other team, any other league? And I get that we've got some good representation in the state leagues. But if you're a young girl, let's say 14, 15, 16 in the Geelong region, what are you looking up to if you've got a state league option only and you can't say, right, I'm going to go and play in the local leagues, cut my teeth because I'm going to be 15, jumping to playing open age football.
Yep.
What am I going to cut my teeth with? What's going to be my options? Or do I just pack in playing? It just needs to be, there's more. And I think everyone that you talk to, we played a game against Barwon Heads. Half time, we were 5-0 up, I think. And I changed my formation. I put one of my youngest girls with one of the least amount of game time experience into a position where, right, you've pretty much got the majority of this half to go and have time on the pitch, to learn, to develop, and to get that game time under your belt. And the coach came to me after the game and said, okay, I see what you did at half time. Thank you. Because it would have been demoralising for our girls if you'd just kept on plugging away the way you did. So I think everyone has that thought in their head that the FFE don't do enough and they should have split it and they should have done bits and pieces. But it's all great to talk about the past. I want to talk about how good this group of girls that I've got, how good the league is, how strong the league is, how some quality individual players. I've said to some of the guys on the sideline, if you could pick her in a men's team, she'd be in your team sheet straight away. There's some proper quality. So I have the belief in my team that we could go and play at a high level, but could they all commit to travelling to Melbourne? That's where it might fall down. So it's one of those where it's hard. Playing Metro can't be easy. Can't be easy to get there for the parents, all that sort of stuff, where the majority of the parents for my girls are the ones that help me run, help me organise, help me set up. I got a message from a guy from his watch that he'd done so many Ks at the weekend fetching balls from the side of the pitch. And without people like that, we'd be stuffed.
Incidental exercise, If we have a look at that competition again, so we're just looking at the Division 1, and if someone is now thinking, why aren't you looking at Division 2 or why aren't you looking at Division 3? Well, you know what is, we're giving the elite divisions, the elite competitions, a bit of airtime, and they deserve it. And this is maybe one of the things that we want to encourage is we want clubs to be playing at the highest level, particularly if they're able to be there at that level. So we look at the 8 teams there. Now, obviously, this is round 1. So this is the first round. And I assume there's going to be another, 7 rounds where everyone's going to play each other? Or will there be 2 lots of 7? So will there be 14 rounds? Will it be a 14-round competition or a 7-round competition, Simon?
I got fixtures for 9 more rounds because we'd already played 9, so it would have been like 18 in total. Now, our goal difference was pretty fantastic in the first half of the season. One of our girls, a young girl called Cami, pretty much smashed it. She was leading the goal scoring charts. Questions from players that is she going to be able to keep that record if she gets golden boot for half a season? Then the next part, is it all going to be combined? Is it going to be separated? If someone now that's in, let's say, was 9th place, is now going to win the Division 2 with lots more goals because they're playing other teams, who knows? It's difficult. It's hard for those girls to process. But now, as a coach, I know I can say to these girls, there's no easy game. We're where we need to be. Let's prove to everyone else what we can do and how we play.
Well, just looking at the fixtures here, and it looks like it is a 9-round season, if you like, or a half season, or whatever you want to call it, the second phase of the season. Barwon ends up playing Lara United twice and Bell Park twice, and everyone else once, it would seem, or so it would seem. So it kind of does end up being a bit lopsided, I guess. But look, at the end of the day, week in, week out, you'll be playing against some quality teams. But my question now is, how will they determine promotion relegation from Division 2? So will the bottom team from Division 1 get relegated? Will they stay and they'll just add another team or 2 teams from Division 2? Will it all depend on who wants to play next year? Will it depend on how many teams? It seems really like almost like a season-by-season proposition, doesn't it? Has any correspondence been given out to the clubs as to what happens at season's end?
You're talking about the FFV knowing what they want to do first. I think the merry-go-round that is the women's football, clubs will say, we want to play in Division 2, we want to play in Division 1, and then the FFV will go, yeah, right, we'll sort it out from there. But until those clubs actually put that forward, they'll have the same issue that they've got this year. Now, I'm not mentioning any names, and I'm not saying it's any clubs in the Women's League, but I've seen it in the men's where they've gone, let's drop back into Div 3 and win Div 3 at the canter. Let's drop back and have an easier season. Let's get a flag up on the wall in the clubhouse. So I'm not saying any of the women's teams are going to do that, but I know for a fact that if your coach, your setup, your chairman of your club, president, whatever it may be, has confidence in your team and in your coach, why not go for Division 1? I asked a question a couple of years ago to Lara, how do you have a state league side but no Division 1 Saturday side? I thought the rule was you couldn't be a detriment to the local league. And all I did was ask a question on social media, on Facebook, and I got absolutely berated by fans, players, whatever it was from that team. And they all thought it was a bit of a joke, saying, get your facts right. I said, no, I'm asking a question why you don't have a Division 1 side if you've got State League. Because anyone that wants to go up in the State League, I thought the rule was that you had to have at least a Division 1 side in the men's. What's the difference? Why is it not the same when it comes to men's and women's football? We all talk about equality. I've got a shirt from the Pride round on. I mean, I'm proud to wear this shirt. I'm proud of every single player I've got. I don't care their background. I think we should be supporting every single individual, doesn't matter where from, what background, to be able to play football at a level. And I've got people that are so competitive that they just want to just do everything for the shirt and everything for the game. And I've got people that are coming through that are just learning that. But you can see that competitive nature, and why can't we do the same as the men?
Absolutely, and I think we should be able to cater for all levels. And that point about clubs not wanting to get, or teams not wanting to get promoted the following season if they've earned it. Remember, it's the club that gets promoted. It's not that individual team. And if the club gets promoted, like everywhere else, it's up to the club now to recruit or to find new blood or blood juniors, and that should be the case. But yeah, there was too much. It was like the social league going troppo, really extra social. But let's concentrate on some positive things. Dale Harris, who's the senior men's coach there at Barwon Soccer Club, big cheers to Dale. He says, credit to Big Simon. He has our ladies playing a good brand of football and very competitive. He has given some young ladies an opportunity to test themselves at senior level, and his judgment has been spot on. We at Barwon are very lucky to have him. Thank you, Dale. We've got Vlado Jakic. He says, Division 1 looks like a very even competition. That's great for the local game. Like Simon said, the blowouts of 10-plus goals don't benefit either team. May have the right outcome now as well. So if we've got any questions out there, or if you've got any comments about the state of women's football here in Geelong and what needs to be done, we'd love to hear from some players as well. We've heard from those two gentlemen who were both involved as coaches and yourself, but we want to hear from some of the lasses out there as well. What do you think is happening at the moment? That's good, that's bad, that maybe needs to be worked on. Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. But Simon, let's talk about Barwon Soccer Club as a whole. We're mentioning Dale Harris there. Such a big club, and it's getting bigger. But unfortunately, one of the things that's really stopping the further expansion of Barwon is the lack of grounds. We know that that's a big problem at Grovedale Reserve. And also there's always the problem of coaches constantly, needing top quality coaches at all levels, not just a senior level. But how are things going at Barwon Soccer Club this year? It's a great community club that's done so much for the game here, for the sport. We want to know what's the latest there at Barwon Soccer Club and how it's all functioning off the field.
I've only got one negative, and this is going to be funny. I think Colin might be cringing, or Dale will be thinking, what is it? It's the lack of parking. It's that popular. It's on a night time when we train, there's that many junior teams. It's absolutely fantastic to see that many kids actually enjoying the sport. It's beautiful. It's lovely.
Yeah.
You can see so many parents standing at the side. Doesn't matter what the weather conditions are like. The kids are still enjoying having a kick. So I think one of the best things that Barwon does is their junior program. And I think I'm very lucky that the actual people that run the club are fantastic. You can have a conversation with them. You can engage with them. They're all passionate. They're all volunteers. I see so many of these guys near enough every night of the week at the club. And then there's the weekend and they're at every game or they're on both days. I don't know if you've had a stick of rock before, but the likes of Colin and Dale, you can cut them in half and it'll say Barwon inside them. It's that type of thing that these two guys are absolutely fantastic, but they wouldn't be anywhere without the committee and the guys that work in the committee behind them.
That is a very good point. So, and Colin actually is tuning in, so a big cheerio to Colin Drane, the president of Barwon Soccer Club. Great interview, Simon. Good points, well made. Really enjoying watching the women this season. There you go. You haven't earned the ire of the president. On the contrary, you've earned some great praise and some well-deserved praise. Simon, we look forward to following the rest of the local league women's competition, the Women's Division 1 and the Division 2, to see how the teams progress and how your team progresses. But thank you for coming on the show. It's going to be a huge period, a huge next month or two for women's football. And we've just furthering the earlier to the day, I think it was, I've got to bring this up, Brenton Ray makes a point here. The World Cup ticket update at the moment, all the Matildas games in Sydney, Brisbane and Melbourne are sold out. The final games are all sold out in Sydney, Brisbane and Melbourne. And then there's a whole heap of availabilities at the moment. And he's saying that this is already rating as something like 70% tickets have been sold for the Australian games, making it one of the most popular Women's World Cup already. So, and that's what, 2 weeks to go before the actual World Cup kicks off. So it's going to be huge. Unfortunately, we haven't had the support from the mainstream media here in Australia, but expect that to pick up in the next week or so as everyone jumps on the bandwagon. But, mate, I hope we're all ready for the avalanche of young girls, women, and indeed probably boys as well that will want to emulate the Matildas and take up soccer, because I think we're in for an absolute boom period in the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, I think if the FFE get it right, it could be an absolute flyer. It could be absolutely massive.
Yeah,
let's see how big it grows.
That's right. Good on you, Simon Blanche, the coach of the Barwon Women's Soccer Club, or the Barwon Soccer Club women's team. It's an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Good night.
Cheers.